Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad that you're tuning in today. With the upcoming anticipated release of the Harry Potter HBO series, I thought it would take a moment to let you in on a little Hogwarts secret. I love Hogwarts Legacy. Hogwarts Legacy came out in 2023, and as a very avid Harry Potter fan, I fell in love with this game almost immediately. I decided to challenge myself a little bit with gaming for Hogwarts Legacy especially. So not only did I give myself the goal of playing as all four houses, but I decided to 100% each of the four houses. Spoiler alert, this only went half well. I did end up completing all four houses. Unfortunately, as a kind of caveat here, for both my Ravenclaw and my Slytherin playthroughs, I was unable to get all of the collectibles, and I'll explain why. However, because of the time constraints that I had and I wanted to get this video out sooner, I did not opt to start both the Ravenclaw and the Slytherin playthroughs all over again. Especially being that my Slytherin run, I did it on the hardest difficulty, and I didn't want to go through all that again. So, to give myself some credit, I'm going to say that I 100%ed Hogwarts Legacy. As you can see by the Xbox achievements, I did indeed 100% the game to this effectiveness, but I wanted to take it a step further and do it for all four houses. If you're new here and want to learn more about myself or about my gaming content, please hit those like and subscribe buttons. I would gladly appreciate more of you coming on over. And I hope to be more frequent with these releases. It's just full-time job not really helping me. So grab an ice-cold butterbeer and hop on your broomstick, because it's time to talk about the wonderful wizarding world of Harry Potter and Hogwarts Legacy. Basically, the first run, I wanted to play it authentically, as well as wanting to figure out exactly, kind of the bare bones of the game, as well as work my way around the world itself with no spoilers or anything in my sight. Just play it as is. So we kind of decided that we would go off of the Hogwarts house that we would classify ourselves in, as described in Pottermore. For those of you that are too young to know, Pottermore, basically, you can sort yourself into your house. You can give yourself a Patronus. It was really cool just to have that little base where you basically were classified as a Hogwarts student. I literally tried to coax it where it would put me in Gryffindor, and I finally did after like the fourth try. But then I took the quiz authentically, like in the current day, and I had placed in Hufflepuff. So I decided to go ahead and start my first run in Hogwarts Legacy as a Hufflepuff. This very first run of the game was when I fell in love with the game. Also, I had to blur out the name here because I didn't realize I was going to post this to YouTube, and so I blurred out my real name because that's what I put here. Just know that I played as my authentic self, literally. So with this very first playthrough, I was super excited to get into the world of Hogwarts Legacy. Now, for those of you that have not played or don't know the story takes place in the 1890s, long before the events of the Harry Potter books and the Harry Potter universe in general that we know of. You play as a fifth-year student who's just been accepted to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry under, let's say, unusual circumstances. You can see and wield ancient magic, a rare, powerful form of magic that most witches and wizards can't even perceive. After a dragon attack interrupts your journey to Hogwarts and unfortunately kills one of your companions, R.I.P. George, you and Professor Fig uncover a hidden vault tied to the mysterious power. And that's where things start to get a little unhinged. As you settle into your Hogwarts life, attending classes, learning spells, making friends, you uncover a deeper threat brewing beneath the surface. A goblin named Ranrock is leading a rebellion. But this isn't just any uprising. Ranrock is obsessed with harnessing these ancient magic, believing wizards have unfairly hoarded this power for centuries. At the same time, a dark wizard named Victor Rookwood is working with Ranrock, forming a dangerous alliance between dark wizards and goblins. And what do you know it, you're right in the middle of everything. Throughout the story, you encounter memories left behind by a group known as the Keepers, powerful witches and wizards who once studied ancient magic. So the four professors that you encounter in the game are Professor Rackham,
Professor Rookwood, Professor Fitzgerald or Headmaster Fitzgerald, and Professor Picard. They each reveal a warning. This magic is incredibly dangerous if misused. Throughout the main story, they warn you about a former keeper named Isadora Morganach, who believed ancient magic could remove pain and suffering. But the keepers are kind of weary of this, and they're kind of like timid about it because, again, they warn that this magic is kind of dangerous if misused. But Isadora doesn't listen, and her experiments kind of go too far, ultimately leading to her downfall.
So once you get to Hogwarts and you sort yourself into your own house, which I think is really cool.
Basically, I've just been putting anybody who looks like a good guy into Gryffindor, anybody who looks like a bad guy into Slytherin, and the other two can just go wherever the hell they want.
Throughout your time at Hogwarts and while you're attending classes and while all this is going on, the main story of the game is that you run into this place called the Map Chamber, which is below Hogwarts. You have to go through all 4 of these trials by these 4 professors in order to prove yourself and in order to learn more about the history of the secret that the keepers, that's what they call themselves, the keepers are keeping, you know, in order to not expose it to the world. So the 4 trials are varied, but also I kind of wish there was a difference between the first and the second trial. The first and the second trial are basically the same thing. You go down through these crazy puzzle rooms and you have to use ancient magic in order to solve the puzzles, and then you beat these knight folks with ancient magic infused in them, and it's crazy and it's cool. Then comes the third challenge. Neve's challenge was probably my favorite. When I went through this the first time, and for those of you that have a prior Harry Potter knowledge will know what I'm talking about when I talk about it, but Neve's trial took a page literally out of the Beetle the Bard's book for the story of the Deathly Hallows, and the art style was incredible. You literally look as if you're diving into the pages of his story about the 3 brothers and the Deathly Hallows.
I don't care if this game is 3 years old at this point, but I'm not spoiling anything for this part. You just have to go and play the game in order to fully experience this moment, because it literally just took my breath away when I immersed myself into this world, and you'll thank me later.
And then the final trial with Professor Picard is very intriguing. So in the final trial, you have to defeat a beast called a Graphorn, and those things are huge. It is a very tough fight, but ultimately you tame the Graphorn, and it becomes one of your riding mounts. For mounts, that'll get you around the world easier. You can get the Graphorn, you get the Hippogriff, like fairly early on in the game. And then you can also get your broom, which you can unlock fairly early in the game as well. So these are very easier ways to get around Hogwarts so you don't have to walk everywhere, especially in the Highlands, because the Highlands is a huge map and there's a lot to discover. So the easier way to get around is always better. So once you complete all 4 trials from all 4 of the keepers, then you get into the end game. So I took both routes, and I was very ultimately surprised at the differences were between the 2 endings. They're very subtle, but they're supposed to compromise the moral question of the character, and they do, but I feel like their moral and ethical questioning comes from the ending to the Sebastian Sallow quest line, which again is why I'm arguing that his quest is better than the overall main story. So for the main quest ending, I'm just going to play the 2 routes that I took. For the good guy route, I basically did that with all my characters except for Slytherin, and then for Slytherin, I did the evil ending. So take a look for yourself at the subtle differences.
I plan to leave the repository as it is.
I'm pleased to hear that. I've been thinking.
What is it, Professor?
I spent all year trying to keep our journey a secret from everyone, including Professor Weasley. But now I wonder if I should have shared it with her, and the others, sooner. Trusted them more. The Keepers wanted this secret to be locked away forever. How long will you keep it?
I plan to keep it secret for now. But in time, when I'm ready, I plan to tell those I trust everything and accept their help.
I believe that is what Miriam would have wanted. We should trust in others. If anyone can rise to this challenge, my friend, it is you.
I've decided to open the repository. Its power cannot lie dormant for centuries more.
After everything you've seen, what about Isadora's fate?
Isadora wasted her ability trying to save people from themselves. I will not let others dictate what I do with this... my power.
You cannot possibly mean that. You, of all wizard kind, are wholly aware of the misery and pain that could cause.
Thank you, Miriam. For everything.
So with each house, each one comes with a very interesting side mission that only the house itself gets to experience. So for example, one of the coolest things that I found out when I played as a Hufflepuff the first time around, Hufflepuff has a quest where you get to go to Azkaban, the notorious prison where they hold the darkest of wizards. You know, Azkaban, the creepy thing with the Dementors. Anyway, so you get to go there as a Hufflepuff during your quest. And all 4 of these special side quests connect to the main story. And they all connect back to the same person, so the ending is very similar to each other. So for Hufflepuff, you get to go to Azkaban. And that was really fun. I was shocked the first time I went there, and I think both of us kind of just looked at each other and were like, whoa, this is so cool. For Slytherin, you get to go down into the lake caves on the Hogwarts campus, and you get to feed a octopus, which is a very interesting kind of side quest. And you get to speak with the headmaster's elf, which is kind of cool. For Gryffindor's quest, it's basically Nick's mission to join the Headless Hunt. He recruits you into finding some rotten roast beef, and then once you go down to the graveyard to give it to the Headless Hunt folks, then you have to look for Richard Jackdaw's head, which means exploding some pumpkins. It's really weird. Ravenclaw was where you solve a riddle up in the owlery, which I thought was really interesting, and also very on brand for Ravenclaw.
So now we get to talk about one of my favorite customizable features of Hogwarts Legacy, the Room of Requirement.
This unlocks fairly early in the game, and it gives you some extra room to practice your spell casting, or to make more potions, or to grow more plants that you can use for your combat, or for other potions. And then there's also the fact that later you can unlock vivariums for your beasts that you can capture. And you can use them to create elements of their fur or their feathers that you can use for power upgrades to your wardrobe, all that good stuff. So in Hogwarts Legacy, there are 45 achievements that you need to complete in order to 100% the game. This is one of my favorite achievements. It's called Spilled Milk, and you use the spell Flipendo 10 times to tip one cow or several. So as you can see from this clip, I had a little too much fun doing some cow tipping in the Highlands, but I really got a giggle every time I got to use this spell. I did feel bad for the cows as I was doing this, but just know that this achievement is kind of ridiculous, but also it's probably one of the best ones in the entire game. Now, let's talk about Merlin's beard. So throughout the game, there are several kind of mini missions that you get to go on, including collecting all the demiguise statues and all your collections that you have to look forward to. Follow the Butterflies is another one. And then Merlin's beard is the achievement that talks about the Merlin Trials. At some point during the game, you come up to this woman located right outside of Hogwarts as you begin to explore the Highlands. And this woman, she is trying to figure out the puzzle of these Merlin Trials. And so you find out through working together with her that these Merlin Trials are completed. They're kind of just basically mini puzzles. They're a rotation of about 5 or 6 different puzzles that you can find throughout the Highlands. But once you've completed the puzzle, it kind of, this tower grows, or this construction grows, and there's a Merlin statue in the middle of it, and it sprouts like all this green, and it's really pretty. It may be pretty, but it's a pain to find. There are 95 Merlin Trials in total. These can only be found in the Highlands, and you have to look like you're looking for a needle in a haystack, my friend. These things are a pain to find, especially if you're trying to finish the Completionist and get all your collections done, or just 100% the game. So multiply 95 times 4, and that's how many times I completed this achievement. Granted, you only have to complete it one time in order to knock the trophy, but because I went a little above and beyond and was an overachiever, I decided to do this for all 4 houses, and it was kind of annoying. Just keep in mind that some of the Merlin Trials will show up automatically when you Revelio all over the map, but some of them you have to like fly close enough to it, or it only triggers if you get to a certain region. So keep that in mind when you're looking for these trials, because sometimes I literally had to fly over the map like 5 or 6 times in order to locate these trials. So it was a pain, but I finished them all. The nature of the beast. As I mentioned earlier, with this achievement, you have to unlock the vivariums and the ability to capture beasts first before you're able to complete this. This particular subset is only unlockable later on in the game. So you have to do this to all the beasts in the game, except for the Phoenix, because the Phoenix, there's only one Phoenix in the entire game, and it's a quest-specific mission. But other than that, all other beasts are fair game, including the Graphorn, which is part of the final trial. So there are beasts throughout the world, but like Pokemon, there are shiny beasts, which are very rare to find. And the only way you can tell if it's a shiny is if it has this tiny little sparkle up on it. When you hover over each of the beasts as you're going out to find them, you'll see that they have the male, the female symbol, and then right beside that symbol you see the little sparkles. So that means that's a shiny, and it's a little rarer than some of the other ones. I've captured several shinies, including a shiny Puffskein, a couple of shiny Nifflers. I believe I caught a shiny Deercall at one point, a shiny Unicorn. But one of my proudest achievements to date was capturing a shiny Graphorn. I know, it's so stupid, but it's one of the coolest things I've ever seen. The baby, if you breed a shiny and a non-shiny, you have a lesser chance of producing a shiny offspring than you do if you have both shinies, like I did with my Nifflers, because I found 2 shiny Nifflers and I was able to breed them and it came out a shiny youngling. So that's the nature of the beast, the seeker of knowledge. So at the very end of the game, in the spring term, Professor Weasley summons you to her office in order to talk to you. And once you've beaten the main story, a message will pop up basically saying now's the time to explore the Highlands, collect everything, finish your field guide. Take that opportunity to finish your field guide before you go back to Professor Weasley, because once you go there, that's the end. You can still unlock stuff after you've talked to Professor Weasley and gone through the house cup ceremony. However, once you've talked to Professor Weasley, depending on how much you've completed of your field guide, she'll give you a different response. One of my responses was something along the lines of, oh, you almost did good. And then there was another one that was basically like, oh, you did everything. Good job. So it kind of depends on how much you've completed of the field guide. So she does pay attention to how much you actually do. And the more you've completed it, the more she'll be happy about it. So keep that in mind as you do that before you go to the final cutscene of the game, with obviously your house winning, because she pulls a Dumbledore and basically gives you a 100-point addition for basically saving the school during the Ranrock fight. So it's kind of rigged in that regard.
So, fun fact about Hogwarts Legacy that I did not know, or something that I hadn't really seen in any other game before. There's a feature in Harry Potter where you can turn on this arachnophobia filter. And if that happens, if you decide to turn this on, it gets a little weird. They don't actually look like spiders. They kind of look adorable, actually. I don't know. It's hard to describe them. They're just so cute. I couldn't take them seriously, honestly. But I guess that's kind of the point, because the detailing in Hogwarts Legacy is very realistic, and I can understand how some people who are very seriously arachnophobic can get a rise out of this. So kudos to the developers for actually thinking about this, because I think this is the first time that I've actually seen this kind of filter in this game. As I was playing through Hogwarts Legacy, a new quest popped up in a later update of the game called Portrait in a Pickle. And this quest line mostly revolves around a very pretentious painting that can be found in the 3 broomsticks, usually. However, during your mission here, the one in the library, it comes in a pair. The one painting in the library basically tells you that a Hogwarts student made a deal with some dark wizards, basically saying to get rid of the painting. And so this painting that was in the 3 broomsticks is now somewhere with the dark wizards. Your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to return the portrait to the 3 broomsticks. You have 3 different ways that you can handle the quest line. You can do the good thing and return the painting to the 3 broomsticks. The alternative to this is that you can return the painting but put it in the Hogshead instead. If you've been through Hogsmeade, you know that the Hogshead is basically the opposite of the 3 broomsticks. Think of it like the 3 broomsticks is the cheery, happy bar, and then there's the Hogshead, which is kind of a biker, seedy bar. I don't know why that comparison came to my head. That was pretty much the closest I could compare those two with. But you could put the painting in the Hogshead. The painting would obviously hate you, but alternatively, I think it'd be better than the third hidden option. So a third hidden option would be that you could burn the painting. And I kind of gave this a try on my Slytherin playthrough, and it was no joke. You literally burn the painting, and there were a couple of different reactions I got. First of all, I actually got the painting burning, which was kind of dark, but also when you go back to the 3 broomsticks after you complete the quest, Sirona says this.
There's no love lost for Ferdinand, trust me. But Destroying his frame might have been a bit unnecessary.
I think out of all the different quest lines in the game, this is one of the unique ones that I found. It was interesting how they gave you these different options that you could play with. I played with all 3 options, and I don't know, I think the one that made the most sense was obviously doing the right thing. So I thought that was a really interesting quest to have completed for that. Minding Your Own Business was originally a PlayStation exclusive, which released on the Xbox later on in the year. When I first got this notification for this quest popping up, I had no idea the kind of that I was in store for with this quest. So basically how you begin this quest is there is a for sale sign located in Hogsmeade, and there is an empty shop nearby, and outside this shop you'll find a house elf named Penny. You talk to Penny. She basically leads you to talk to Madame Mason, who is the store owner, or the shop owner originally. Once you talk to Cassandra Mason, then you go back to the shop, but not before she tells you that she would like you to pick up her husband's effects, because unfortunately she is a widow with her husband passing away. So, out of the kindness of your heart, you decide to go back to the shop, into the chest, and retrieve the husband's belongings. I kind of wish on my first attempt that I had known not to go into this chest, because inside this chest, you go down a ladder and you end up going through this insane dungeon down under this shop. So basically, you end up going through this dungeon that is haunted by a poltergeist named Fastidio, this guy. So basically, you have to run through and solve all these little tiny puzzles to unlock different doors, which involve pulling lanterns towards you and using the lanterns to unlock the door. It's insane. Literally, when I first did this quest the first time, I was shocked. I thought it was a completely different game, but at the same time, I kind of liked the different aspects of the dungeon. Of course, these freaking mannequins got me every single time. If you're afraid of mannequins, I would highly suggest not doing this quest. So once you get through and once you defeat the poltergeist, the poltergeist makes a deal with you. Fastidio decides to tell you, hey, you know what? I want to haunt your store. Let's make a deal. So you end up making a deal with this poltergeist, and then he lets you get out. You report back to Officer Singer in Hogsmeade, where you basically tell her about this horror dungeon that you just escaped from. Y'all confront Cassandra Mason together, but lo and behold, and to the surprise of no one, Cassandra Mason turns out to be the villain in this subplot. She knocks Officer Singer out immediately, and you end up fighting Cassandra Mason for your own sanity. And ultimately, you do win with the proper wand skills at hand. And Cassandra Mason ends up going to Azkaban and transferring all of the deeds and the ownership of the shop to you immediately, thus ending the quest of minding your own business. Oh, and there's also a little element where you can free the house elf or keep her enslaved to work in your shop. But regardless of the option you pick, she still stays with you and tends the shop for you. It's also kind of cool that you get to choose your own name for the shop. There's only 3 different options, but again, this quest is just so insane and so out of left field that it's kind of fun and kooky, and it keeps things very interesting. I'm really glad that they decided not to make it just a PlayStation exclusive anymore, that you can now play it on Xbox. It's also very important that if you are collection hunting, this quest is part of that 100%ing all the way through. So keep that in mind when you are finishing all your missions and such, because you're going to need to complete this quest in order to fully 100% Hogwarts Legacy. But overall, it was a really fun treat, and I was glad to be a part of the horror dungeon experience. So in recent years, because I've been watching so many people talk about completionist trophies, it kind of gave me chase to do my own completionist trophy runs on a lot of these games. Out of the 4 times that I was 100%ing all the houses, 2 of them I could not complete for the life of me. And the one section that was such a pain, and it happened for both, was this collection section. So throughout the game, you get to collect different pieces for your collections throughout the game. So you can find them while you're exploring the Highlands, you can do it while you're exploring Hogwarts, you can do it while you're exploring Hogsmeade. And there are 140 collectibles that you can collect throughout the world. And these include items that you can find in your beast vivariums. These are pieces where you can find with the random butterflies that are flying around, which is associated with the different side quests. There are a ton of videos talking about this glitch. I tried every single tactic that you can possibly think of for trying to get rid of this bug, minus the fact of restarting these two houses over, because ain't nobody got time for that. And by God, I could not figure it out. So in the simplicity of saying I 100% of these games, 2 out of 4 ain't bad. So my Ravenclaw and my Slytherin playthrough, something must have happened and I wasn't paying attention, because, and this is why you got to pay very special attention, especially if you're a completionist like myself, you have to look and see every single chest if something comes out of it. If something doesn't come out of it, then it's probably glitched. I looked through the butterflies like more than twice. I retraced my steps multiple times. I looked everywhere. I looked in the vivariums like 3 times. I did this reset hack that was really weird and it didn't work. So, yeah.
Thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here, sticking along with me as I rant about all things Harry Potter and Hogwarts Legacy, because I love this game. It is so rich, it is so incredible, and I'm glad that I got the chance to not play it just once, but 4 times to experience the fullness of the game. I think with all 4 playthroughs, I kind of got a full sense of the game, and even though I might not be picking it back up for a long while, I just know that the memories will carry with me no matter what game I play. And it's not just through Hogwarts Legacy. I think with this Completionist trophy under my belt, it'll give me a little more confidence to continue on with the Completionist trophy runs. If you enjoy this type of storytelling and this type of content in relation to gaming, please feel free to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. It'll really help my channel grow, as well as kind of give me a little bit of a boost of, hey, I'm going in the right direction here. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you all again soon.